Alright boys, this is April 1st. I just made it here to work. I heard a clunking sound when I pulled up, and it did not break an axle this time. It blew up the transmission. I'm not sure how close you can see it, but it's coming out of the trans, not at the axle seal. I didn't even make a pull, so I'm assuming that something in there let go because of the prior damage to it. But I wish this was an April Fool's joke. You know, everybody's posting their funny April Fool's jokes, but yeah, it dropped out at least 6 quarts of it. No telling how much it dropped out on the highway. So for it to let go whatever was inside of the torque converter means something in there seriously failed, and it's not coming out of the normal part. Right. Let's see if I can show you. Usually it would come out of that crease, or that seal right here. But it's not. It's coming out behind the trans. So she's done. The trans was shifting fine. It kind of like did some like weird clunk when I came to a stop. So I thought maybe I was leaking out of the axle seal, but it's not. Yep, I'm sure my work's gonna be kind of upset about that, but transmission fluid looks clean. But obviously, because I just put new fluid in it, but damn. Yep, there's that. Yeah, transmission. I'm not sure what that is. You can definitely see the metal down in there. But I'm assuming that's either the diff pin. I can't tell. Nor can I get my fucking finger in there deep enough to see exactly what the fuck that is. There was a ton of metal all underneath the car. I ended up getting all that off, but there's a ton of metal inside of here. Let's see if I can get my fucking finger back in here. I couldn't get it deep enough. It's a weird angle. Yeah. So that's that. So good news is we got the top 3 transmission bolts out. Got all of the battery tray, all the harness, the oil cooler lines, all the oil out of the trans. Both the axles are out. So next step is to unbolt this, the starter, and the unbolt the flywheel from the torque converter, and start working our way out of this thing. Bad news is there is a ton of metal inside the trans, and it wasn't like that 3 days prior to it breaking the diff. So I gotta figure out if the trans cooler is done. I don't know if I want to take the risk and run the trans cooler and it have metal inside of it, so I might have to try to figure out if I can flush it out one way or another, or to replace it, even though it's not cheap. But yeah, we got a lot of progress done today, and we'll continue tomorrow. Alright guys, so the subframe came out pretty easy with the help of this man, Troy. So we're gonna take this and put it out of the way, and I got a few more bolts and the trans will be out. She's out, boys! It's the first time this trans had to come out. Yeah, buddy. How bad was it? Yeah, buddy. Alright, guys. So we drove to Tennessee today, about 3 hours away in one way to go get this trans. There was a little issue with the valve body connector, but we replaced it with my original one. And we got a really good deal on it with 50,000 miles on it. So we just now got the top 3 transmission bolts in it, and it was a pain in the ass this time. I had the motor too high, rushing to try to get it done, and we just couldn't get it to line. I just took a step back, realized the motor was too high because I couldn't even get to the crank bolt. So now we're in. I still got to put the trans bolts in. There's about 8 or 9 of them, and then I got to put up these 5 right here, and then I've got to put 4 torque converter bolts in, and then we're done for the night. Trans is mounted in. Still got a few more bolts to put in. Got to do all the torque converter bolts in the morning, and then get the subframe in, get the suspension back on, battery back on, intake manifold back in, trans torque mount, bunch of shit. So at least she's back in, and hopefully we can grind the rest out tomorrow. Intake manifold, catch can, battery still needs to go back in. All the transmission bolts, torque converter, starter, all that is in. Still need to do the transcooler. I have to replace that, which I've already got. Got to clean out the hoses. Everything underneath here, the coolant radiator support is back together. All that is back together. But we had a problem. That is broke. So tomorrow I'm towing it to get welded. It does have 2 other bolts holding the support back in. Next is we put the subframe back in, and we will be good to yeah, once we get the subframe back in, we put the charge pipes back on here, and be ready to flash this thing, and it'll be done. Alright, so the subframe is in, suspension's temporarily put in there. Got to throw the axles in, connect the power steering back. Still need to throw the battery tray in there. Everything else is pretty much in. The subframe was kind of a pain in the ass to get back in there, so that's where we're at now. We got the steering bolt back inside. So next thing, we'll be getting it flashed here in a little bit. Do the transcooler lines and get the axles in it, and it should be ready to go back down the ground tonight. Alrighty, so now the entire car is back together besides the axles and the mount. We still got to go have that welded. Battery's back in, everything's back in. Suspension is temporarily bolted in, so I got to come back home and put the axles back in it after we have the trans welded. And that's that. Let's see if I can get another shot. Put a rag over the charge pipes. Everything is in. It's time to get the wheels on it and lower it down. She is back down on the ground, boys. Hell yeah. Finally made it to the shop to get re-welded. I think this one set the record in the the 1/8 mile for that platform, and I'm not sure about this one. Look at those fucking brakes, carbon fiber, holy shit. It's beautiful. The RMM is in, and she's in there really tight. She's good to go. That's where it had to be re-welded. Let's see if I get it to focus. I had to drill and tap it again, and went with a standard instead of a metric in there, but we're good to go. We are good to go. Now I gotta throw the axles in and throw the charge pipes on, throw some oil in it, and we'll have our first start up. We just now flashed the car. We got it on a jump, and there's some trans fluid in here, so we're gonna see if this thing is actually gonna do what it's supposed to do. GFRs look good. Are we good?
Good underneath.
All right.